my name's Ethan Carter. I'm 26, from a small town in Colorado, and last summer, I found out the girl I loved was embarrassed to be seen with me. Her name was Olivia Hayes. We'd been dating for almost a year, and I'm not gonna lie. I thought she was the one. You know that feeling, right? When things just feel easy, like you don't have to try too hard to be happy. Yeah, that was us. At least, that's what I believed. Olivia came from money. Not just comfortable money. I'm talking private vineyards, family investments, last name opens doors kind of money. Her family basically owned half of Napa Valley. And me? I was a freelance video editor, working from my laptop, taking whatever projects I could get. Nothing glamorous, but it was honest work. And honestly, I was proud of it. At least, until that weekend. It started when Olivia told me about her cousin's wedding. Madeline's getting married next month, she said, all excited. It's gonna be at our vineyard in Napa. You should come with me. I didn't even think twice. I said yes immediately. Looking back now, maybe I should have thought about it a little more. Because to me, that invitation meant something. It felt like a step forward, like she was finally bringing me into her world. Meeting her family, being introduced properly, not just as some guy she hangs out with, but as her boyfriend. That mattered to me. And I remember the way she smiled when I said yes, but now that I think about it, there was something off about it. I just didn't notice it then. The drive to Napa was about 4 hours. We left early in the morning, and for most of the trip, things felt normal. We were joking, listening to music, arguing about which songs were better, the usual stuff. At one point, she leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "This weekend's gonna be important." And yeah, I took that in the best way possible. I thought she meant important for us. I was wrong. When we finally reached the vineyard, I'll be honest, it was insane. Rows and rows of grapevines, this huge white mansion in the distance, people walking around dressed like they belonged in some luxury magazine. It didn't feel real. And for the first time, I felt out of place. I tried to brush it off. Told myself, relax, Ethan. You're here with her. That's what matters. But then, just before we walked in, she stopped. Like, actually stopped walking, grabbed my arm, and looked at me in this weird, serious way. And then she said it. "Hey, can we just not act like we're dating today?" I laughed. I genuinely thought she was joking. I mean, who says that, right? But she didn't laugh back. She just looked at me and said, "I'm serious." And I remember this exact feeling in my chest, like something just dropped. I asked her what she meant, and she sighed, like I was making it complicated. "My family is very traditional," she said. "They have certain expectations. I just don't want to deal with all the questions right now." Questions. That's how she described it. Like I was some kind of inconvenience she didn't feel like explaining. I stood there for a second, trying to process it. Part of me wanted to push back, to say no, to ask why she even brought me if she was going to hide me. But instead, I did what I regret the most. I said, "Yeah, okay." I told myself it was just for one day. That it didn't really mean anything. That relationships sometimes require compromise. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Still, I followed her inside. And that's where everything started to change. Walking into that place felt like stepping into someone else's life. There were people everywhere, dressed in suits that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Champagne glasses, live music, servers walking around with trays like it was some movie scene. Olivia changed the moment we entered. It was subtle at first, but I noticed. She stopped walking next to me and moved slightly ahead. Not a big distance, just enough to create space. And when the first group of relatives approached us, smiling and hugging her, I heard it. "Oh, and this is Ethan, a friend." A friend. That word landed heavier than I expected. I smiled, shook hands, tried to act normal, but inside I was thinking, all right, maybe just this once. But then it happened again. And again. And again. Family friend. Friend from out of town. Someone I know. Every introduction chipped away at me a little more. What made it worse was the way people reacted. Some of them barely even looked at me after hearing that word. You know that polite smile people give when they're already done talking to you. Yeah, that kind. At one point, Olivia got pulled into a conversation with her aunt and uncle, and I ended up standing by the bar alone. I grabbed a drink just to have something to do with my hands. And that's when I started noticing something else. People were watching. Not in a rude way, just curious. Like they were trying to figure out where I fit into the picture. Honestly, I didn't even know anymore. Then this guy walked up next to Olivia while she was talking to her relatives. Tall. Confident. Perfect suit. The kind of guy who looks like he's never had to worry about money a single day in his life. His name was Daniel Brooks. I learned that pretty quickly, because Olivia said his name a lot after that. Daniel, it's been forever. Daniel, you remember Madeline from college, right? Daniel, you should meet my parents later. And the way she smiled around him, it was different. You ever notice how someone laughs just a little harder around certain people? Yeah. That. I told myself I was overthinking it. Weddings are social events. People reconnect. That's normal. But then I watched them talk for almost 15 minutes straight. And not once did she glance over to see if I was okay. Not once. At some point, Daniel said something that made her laugh so hard she touched his arm. And I remember thinking something really stupid in that moment. Maybe I should leave. But I didn't. Because part of me still believed this was just a misunderstanding, that later she'd come find me, hold my hand again, and everything would go back to normal. Instead, she walked over with Daniel. "Ethan," she said, smiling like everything was perfectly fine, "this is Daniel." I shook his hand. Firm grip. Confident eye contact. The kind of guy who instantly fills a room. "Nice to meet you," he said. "Olivia's told me a lot about you." And I remember thinking, really? Because it doesn't seem like it. We talked for a minute or two, but honestly, I don't even remember what was said. My brain was somewhere else. Because while we were standing there, Olivia introduced me again. And guess what she said? "This is my friend Ethan." Daniel nodded politely, but I noticed something in his expression. Like he was trying to figure out why Olivia's friend came with her to a family wedding. Honestly, I was wondering the same thing by then. The rest of the evening kept going like that. Everywhere we went, she drifted further away from me and closer to her world. And the worst part? I started feeling like I didn't belong next to her anymore. Not because of money. Not because of her family. but because of the way she looked at me that night. Like I was temporary. Like I was replaceable. And the moment that really hit me, it happened during the rehearsal dinner. That's when things got worse. The rehearsal dinner was held just outside the main house. Long wooden tables, string lights hanging above, candles everywhere. It looked beautiful. The kind of place where couples take pictures and pretend everything is perfect. I remember thinking, this would have been nice if things were different. Olivia barely sat next to me. At first, she did, but within minutes, someone called her over, and she left. Said, "I'll be right back." She wasn't. I sat there alone, surrounded by people who didn't know me, didn't really care to know me either. I tried to join conversations, but they all felt surface level. Like I was just filling space. And then I heard something I wish I didn't. I got up to grab another drink, and as I walked past one of the tables behind me, I heard Olivia's voice. She was talking to two of her cousins. I wasn't trying to listen, but when you hear your name, you stop. "Yeah, he's nice," she said. Nice. I don't know why that word bothered me so much, but it did. One of her cousins asked, "So is he like your boyfriend?" There was a pause. Not long, but long enough. And then Olivia said, quietly, "No, it's not serious." Something in me just dropped. I stood there for a second, frozen, pretending to look at my phone like I didn't hear anything. But I heard all of it. Every word. One of them laughed a little and said, "Good." I was gonna say, "He doesn't really seem like your type." And Olivia didn't defend me. She didn't say anything. That silence said more than anything else could have. I walked away before they could see me. I didn't confront her. I didn't make a scene. I just walked. Sometimes you don't react right away, not because you're okay, but because your brain is still trying to catch up with what your heart just felt. I went outside near the vineyard, where it was quieter. You could still hear the music faintly in the background, people laughing, glasses clinking. And there I was, standing alone, trying to figure out how I went from being her boyfriend to being not serious. I kept replaying it in my head. Maybe she didn't mean it like that. Maybe she was just saying it to avoid questions. Maybe I'm overreacting. But deep down, I knew the truth. People don't say things like that unless they believe them. I stayed out there for a while. Honestly, I didn't even know how long. At some point, I heard footsteps behind me. It was Daniel. Of all people. "Hey," he said, standing next to me, looking out at the vineyard. "You okay?" I almost laughed. Out of everyone there, he was the one asking me that. I said, "Yeah, just needed some air." He nodded like he understood. We stood there in silence for a few seconds, and then he said something that caught me off guard. "You know, Olivia's always been like this around her family." I turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" He shrugged a little. "She cares a lot about how they see her. More than she should." I didn't respond. Because honestly, I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to defend her. Part of me already knew he was right. He looked at me for a second, then added, "No offense, man, but if she brought you here and then introduced you as a friend." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I already knew how it sounded. We stood there a bit longer, and then he said, "You seem like a good guy." And then he walked off. And that's when it really hit me. Not when she called me a friend. Not when she ignored me. Not even when I heard her say it wasn't serious. It hit me when a complete stranger understood my situation better than the person I was dating. That was the moment something inside me started to change. Not anger. Not yet. Just clarity. The kind that hurts. I went back inside after that. And I told myself one thing. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to her. Because I needed to hear it from her directly. No more guessing. No more pretending. I needed the truth. I just didn't know how bad it was going to be. I didn't sleep that night. I tried, but every time I closed my eyes, I kept hearing her voice. It's not serious. It just kept repeating in my head. By morning, I already knew this wasn't something I could ignore anymore. I found Olivia near the back of the vineyard, where they were setting up for the ceremony. People were moving around, adjusting chairs, fixing decorations, everything looked perfect. Funny how things can look perfect on the outside. She smiled when she saw me. Like nothing had happened. "Hey," she said. "Where did you disappear last night?" I just looked at her for a second. I think that's when she realized something was off. "I heard you," I said. Her smile faded a little. "Heard what?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't get emotional. I just said it straight. "What you told your cousins. That it's not serious." She looked away almost immediately. And that right there, that told me everything. Still, I gave her a chance. "Was that true?" I asked. She sighed, like this was some inconvenience she had to deal with. "Ethan, this isn't the time." "When is the time, Olivia?" I cut in. "Because I'm standing here feeling like I don't even know what we are." There was a long pause. She crossed her arms, thinking, choosing her words carefully. And for a second, I actually hoped she'd fix it. That she'd say something like, "I didn't mean it," or "I was just trying to avoid questions." Something. Anything. Instead, she said this. "I just didn't want them judging me." I frowned. "Judging you for what?" And then she said the sentence I don't think I'll ever forget. "For dating someone average." Just like that. No hesitation. No emotion. Like she was stating a fact. Average. I didn't even respond right away. Because honestly, I didn't know how to. It's weird how one word can hit harder than anything else. Not poor. Not unsuccessful. Average. Like I was something replaceable. Something temporary. I looked at her, trying to figure out if she realized what she just said. But she didn't look sorry. If anything, she looked relieved. Like she finally said what she'd been holding back. "I didn't want to deal with their questions," she continued. "You don't understand how my family is. They expect a certain standard." A standard. I let out a small laugh, not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So what am I then?" I asked. "Something below standard." She didn't answer. And again, that silence said everything. I nodded slowly. Not in agreement, just in acceptance. Because at that point, I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't guessing. I wasn't hoping. I understood exactly where I stood in her life. And it wasn't where I thought I did. "You know what's crazy?" I said. She looked at me, slightly annoyed now. I was proud to be with you." That made her expression change, just a little. "But you," I continued, shaking my head slightly, "you couldn't even admit I was yours for one day." She tried to say something, but I didn't let her. Because honestly, I didn't want excuses anymore. I didn't want explanations. I didn't want to hear about her family, or expectations, or standards. None of that mattered at that point. What mattered was simple. She was ashamed of me. And there's no fixing that. I took a step back. And I swear, that was the hardest part. Not the argument. Not the words. Just letting go of the idea I had of us. "I'm not staying for the wedding," I said. Her eyes widened a little. "Ethan, don't make a scene." "I'm not," I said calmly. "I'm leaving." She looked around quickly, probably worried someone would notice. And that just proved my point even more. It was never about us. It was always about how things looked. I turned to walk away. And for the first time since I got there, I didn't feel confused. I didn't feel small. I just felt done. Behind me, I heard her say my name. But I didn't stop. Because sometimes, the only way you keep your self-respect is by walking away before someone takes the rest of it. I left the vineyard without saying goodbye to anyone. Didn't wait. Didn't look back. I just got in my car and drove. For the first hour, I didn't even play music. Just silence and my own thoughts. And I'll be honest, it hurt. Not in a dramatic way, not like anger or shouting. Just quiet pain. The kind where you keep replaying everything, trying to figure out where it changed. Where you missed the signs. Because looking back, they were always there. The little comments. The way she avoided certain conversations. The way she never really posted about us. I just chose not to see it. Because when you love someone, you don't look for reasons to doubt them. You look for reasons to stay. By the time I got home, I was exhausted, mentally more than anything. I didn't text her. Didn't call. I just let it end there. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. It was her. "Hey. I've been thinking. I miss you." I stared at that message longer than I should have. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because part of me still remembered how I used to feel when her name popped up. But that feeling wasn't there anymore. She sent another message. "I was just stressed that day. My family makes things complicated. You know I didn't mean it like that." I actually smiled a little when I read that. Not because it was funny, but because it sounded exactly like what I expected. Not an apology. An explanation. There's a difference. An apology takes responsibility. An explanation just tries to make it easier to accept. I typed a reply, then deleted it. Typed again, deleted it again. Because I realized something. No message I sent was going to change what already happened. And more importantly, I didn't need closure from her. She already gave it to me. The moment she called me average. So I didn't reply. I put my phone down, and that was it. That was the end of us. It's been a few months since then. And yeah, I won't pretend like it didn't affect me. It did. But not in the way you'd think. It didn't break me. It taught me something. That respect matters more than love. Because you can love someone deeply and still lose yourself trying to be enough for them. And I'm not doing that again. If someone sees you as average, let them. Because the right person won't measure your worth like that. They'll stand next to you, not hide you. And honestly, I'd rather be alone than feel invisible next to someone who's supposed to love me.